All right, I want to make a video on my 71 Dart swinger that I've been working on for about 20 years. I've kind of given up on it 2 or 3 times and pulled it back in and getting back started on it. But this thing started out as it was supposed to be I was just going to do a roll bar and ladder bar, and it just kind of escalated due to rust issues and whatnot, and next thing you know, I ended up with a full roll cage in it, Mustang 2 front end under it, and made the front frame rails and basically remade the rear frame rails. And I don't see too many cars done up quite like this one, so I was going to share this one. What I ended up doing was, what got me onto this whole Mustang 2 thing was when I got the car down where I wanted it to sit, I had a problem with my tires. We're going to hit the lip of the fender, and there was basically no way to narrow up the track width other than to put a different front end underneath it. So I decided to cut the frame rails out, build frame rails, and made them out of 2x3 box tubing, and just kind of spliced them into the factory frame rails, and got a Mustang 2 front end kit from, I believe it was Full Tilt Customs out of Colorado, and he makes a narrow control arm. So I put that on there too, and in hindsight, the control arms were good. I also installed the kit as narrow as I could, all again for track width. But I guess I should say I made my frame rails as narrow as I could. The kit kind of had to be installed for track width. You didn't really have a decision on that, but what in hindsight, I should have left the frame rails as wide as I could for header clearance, because I ended up with super tight on header clearance right here. Had to build the headers because there's no off-the-shelf header to do this, because nobody does it. And had to make my own motor mounts. Made those out of, they were A-body upper control arm bushings and a piece of tubing that I cut down and made the mounts out of those. I had the bushings left over from this kit for this car because I ended up using that front end, so I had some parts left over, and so ended up, like I say, I had to make the headers. Bought the flanges from Speedway. They're an 1 5/8 to 1 3/4 step header is what I ended up making. And if you've seen the way a Dodge exhaust port's made, it's kind of a nightmare getting the header tube formed to fit inside the flange. I believe the flanges were actually made for 1 3/4, and if I was going to do it again, I probably would have made them 1 3/4 to 1 7/8 step, but at the time I thought that was a hot ticket, and so that's what I did. And I got a cheap set of Edelbrock. They've discontinued them, but they were a merge collector, and that's why I got them for collectors. But like I say, the front end, it's got Viking double adjustable shocks, and I believe they're metric calipers on it. And then I got a HEI 1-wire that I made a mount for on that. And then starter solenoid, power wires up on the firewall. 85 Dodge Diplomat master cylinder, which is pretty similar to Willwood, a little bit bigger bore, but they still seem to work good, and they're like $25. So it's kind of a thing I do on a lot of my stuff. If I'm going to change over to manual brakes, I just put I believe it's an 85 Dodge Diplomat master cylinder on it. And then Speedway radiator. And I'm in here, I'm in the process of getting these fenders finally hung, and going to try to get body work done on this and get it back together. Got a brakes ran down. I've got a line lock that's not in it right now, but then it runs down to the proportioning valve, and it goes, everything splits out from there. But so roll cage, full, I don't know, 10 point, 12 point, just kind of something that got out of hand. Got a dash bar up there. I got to figure out how I'm gonna get the factory dash back in it. X brace in the back, coilover mounts. I got the fuel cell mounted. It runs and drives right now. It's just not ready to go down the road. But let me, I got a 4-speed in it. Gonna pull that out. I'm gonna put automatic back in it and try to foot brake the car. So let me get it up in the air. All right, it's up in the air. Just gonna show you. It's got a ladder bar. I did all this work. I built the entire roll cage. It's the first roll cage I've ever done to this quality and this level, but just a universal cross member for the ladder bar. Made the ladder bars. You can adjust the pinion angle with that coupler right there. It lets you do that without taking the ladder bar loose and adjusting the heims that way. So got an 8.8 out of an Explorer, narrowed. Still got the Explorer disc brakes, big Trino, I believe Mosier ends on it. 31 spline, spool, strange axles, no, Mosier axles, sorry. Strange shocks, single adjustables on the back. Then made the frame rails out of, look, that's 2x4 up there, and then that goes into 2x3. And 16-gallon fuel cell because I'm planning, no, it ain't a 16, I think it's a 12 because I'm planning on actually driving this on the street a little bit, but I don't know how much, probably not very much. But here's, like I say, the shocks from underneath, and ended up, for an oil pan, I was gonna have to basically make an entire sump, or I cut the section out of the cross member, put a piece of tubing in there, and that bought me enough room to go ahead and just use a truck rear sump 360 oil pan, and I've got plenty of clearance now. The tightest spot on clearance on these is actually the rack to oil pan, and that ended up making me have to push the motor up a little higher than I want it to be, and that's going to cause issues with the floorboard as well. Had to cut a bunch of crap out of there. I'm gonna get the automatic in it, see where stuff's at, and kind of go from there. There's those Edelbrock merge collectors. But got subframe connectors I made through the floor. They're welded in solid. Other than that, there ain't too much else to say. I just wanted to show it because there's not very many. Like, I don't know, I've never seen one really. It would have been easier probably to make it just a tube chassis car, but this is what ended up happening, so I was just going to pass it on. Like I said, I don't know any other way to narrow up the track width other than basically putting a new front end underneath it, so this is the way I went, and it's going to work. I just got to get back on it, get the fenders hung, do body work, wire it, and then it's basically going to be ready to go, start putting the interior back in it. So it's been a long project. I've had the car for 19 years, and worked on it pretty hot and heavy for a couple, and then I kind of got burnt out on it and ended up building another race car for that bracket race, and been back and forth on what to do with this one, trying to sell it or finish it, and finally I decided I'm just going to finish the thing, and it'll be worth more finished than in pieces anyways. So anyways, I'll quit babbling. Just wanted to pass along what I had, so have a good day.